everybody, this is John for Pioneer Nexus MTG, coming at you with a quick deck tech for another deck that I've been interested in playing in Pioneer for a little while, and that is Fires of Invention Planeswalkers. As a friendly reminder, if you do like Pioneer content, please consider subscribing to the channel, as we aim to become the most informative Pioneer channel on YouTube. So, one of the cards that's banned in a card like Historic is Fires of Invention. It's a format that I enjoyed when Fires was legal in Standard, Fires was legal in Historic, and obviously I know a lot of people didn't like the card, but to me it's a blast to play. A little bit too slow for a format like Modern, which has been my bread and butter for years. Pioneer is just in that sweet spot where it's just fast enough to be fringe playable, but not like overwhelmingly powerful. You know, it's not like Wilderness Reclamation where you can't really overcome once the Wilderness Reclamation comes untapped because it's just so powerful. But, you know, the ability to double spell every turn after that with the sole restriction of you can't play more than 2 spells a turn kind of seems very powerful, obviously. In order to get there, you're kind of a Planeswalker control deck. You're using things like Anger of the Gods, Supreme Verdict to buy yourself enough time, and then, you know, potentially you can even use things like Fae of Wishes or the token from Fable, the Mirror Breaker, to block to buy you enough time against the aggressive decks. And then the rest of the deck in the early turns is set up trying to find your Fires of Invention. Expressive Iterations and Narsets allow you to dig quite deeply for Fires of Invention, whereas I believe the creature version has to use the Sphinx of Foresight, I believe it is. If you reveal it in your opening hand, you can scry 3. So, you know, it's a little bit easier to dig for your Fires. And this deck generally can function without Fires as necessary. Beyond that, obviously, you know, once you hit Fires of Invention, you want to hit some type of powerful spell, sometimes things like Supreme Verdict or Wandering Emperor, buy yourself a little bit of time, and then, you know, you go up the chain with just powerful spells. One of Teferi Hero Dominaria, one of Nicol Bolas, one of Kenrith. Kenrith, obviously, a little bit questionable because you can't activate all his abilities, but, you know, sometimes gaining life and drawing cards can be relevant enough. We don't really have the ability to reanimate too many things, but then again, we don't have too many creatures in our deck. Split on Elspeth Sun's Champion and Chandra Awakened Inferno is pretty nice. A couple of Shark Typhoons as both a big bomb to cast on 6 on your Fires of Invention turns, but also end of turn threat to play against control and stuff. Also could be a chunk blocker or, you know, interact with your opponent meaningfully without casting spells during their turn. And then Nicol Bolas, God Pharaoh, very powerful top end for what this deck is capable of. Obviously, you could consider something like Ugin as well, but, you know, that card is a little bit, it's not great in what you're trying to do with this deck. As far as beyond that, the cards, new additions to the deck, Fable the Mirror Breaker. I'm not 100% sure what this deck is trying to accomplish, other than maybe trying to ramp into Fires on, like, say, play this on 3, you know, fix the mana a little bit. You know, it does give you a little bit of card selection. It does give you a body. So it's not terrible, I suppose, but we really don't have a lot to meaningfully copy with Reflection of Kiki Jiki. And most of our creatures are tokens other than Fae of Wishes, and we can't really use Fae of Wishes meaningfully as a token. So I don't know how I feel about that one. I would have to look into someone who's played the deck a little bit more, maybe with the reasoning why Fable the Mirror Breaker started to pop up in some of these control decks, or Planeswalker control decks. Beyond that, you know, you're a tap-out control deck, so you're a little bit vulnerable to counter spells. Things like Spirits and stuff can be a problem. Blue-white control, I suspect, is probably not the best overall matchup. You do have certain things, you know, Shark Typhoons, Chandra in the sideboard, you know, it's kind of ways to play around them. You can potentially get them into an Narset lock with Gyru's Sanitarium. There's a lot of things you can do against control, but I suspect, especially in the post-board games, that we are extreme dogs to control. Beyond that, you have Grafdigger's Cage and a couple Rest in Pieces for graveyard-based decks. You have Damping Spear for any type of Lotus Field decks. And the rest are, you know, cards you might flip in and out or just wish targets. You have Supreme Verdict and Anger, just might come in against the faster aggressive decks. Slaughter Games against any type of combo. Farewell and Merciless Eviction give you kind of, as well as Ruinous Ultimatum, give you 3 sweepers that are just Very difficult for your opponents to overcome, these two being exile-based effects, this one destroying all non-lands. Casualty of War just being such an overwhelming advantage. Chandra, Awakened Inferno, and Thought Distortion are quite nice cards that if you're able, for some reason, if your opponent allows the Wish to go through, you know, Thought Distortion or Chandra, Awakened Inferno can obviously be uncounterable kind of haymakers, so you do have some play in the control matchups, but I would suspect you're a good dog to blue-white control, etc. But that said, the thing I'm most interested in seeing is, you know, obviously this deck goes over the top of mid-range decks. Can it stand up to an aggressive deck like Winota or Mono Red? Can it? How would it hang in a blue-white control matchup? Those would be two of my bigger questions. Obviously, tempo decks are going to be difficult to do. One card that I did not mention in the mana base, 4 copies of Interplanar Beacon, a little bit of life gain with your Planeswalkers, and then you just have a bunch of utility lands, Ardenvale, Vantress, Gyru Sanitarium, combos with Narset, also gives you something to do with your mana, Crucible and Otawaro. You know, it's nice to have a spread of lands that do things. Gyru Reach is the only one that I kind of question a little bit, simply because I really don't know how many colorless lands you can afford to run in a effectively, well, mostly 3-color, but can be up to 5-color deck. So, see how that plays out. But let's get into some matches and see how this deck holds up. Alright, we're here for match number 1 with Fire's Planeswalker build. The mana's a mess. Let me just mark in this hand. This hand isn't much better. I think we go to 5. Kenrith and Boros. Hope to draw a 3rd land. We're gonna get Thoughtseize because why not? Oh, Dress. And I take Narset. Pass turn. Iteration helps a little bit here, but only if we untap with it. Sun and Blood, sure. We're looking for lands. Well, question is, which one of these will probably matter the most? Put the Wandering Emperor in our hand? Nope. That. Exile that. Pass. It's just discard after discard, which doesn't help when we're looking into Oblivion, I suppose. Don't know if I get the point of Fable the Mirror Breaker when you have a deck that's not playing that many creatures. we just pass here. Presumably our opponent will kill the reflection of Kiki-Jiki. And our opponent's going to discard whatever we draw unless it's a land anyway, so I may as well cycle. Hopefully we hit a land here. Sure. Pass turn. Opponent does get to draw a card here. What does Rune of Inscription do? Yeah, Reggie's a thing. This isn't going to end well for you, friend. And our opponent can't draw additional cards, so. Could we even draw here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. I guess we take the chance. Probably should have cast Fate of Wishes there. Do you have another? Okay, cool. No reason to bring out Damping Spheres. Really don't know. We want Anger of the Gods all that much, but we don't know exactly what their game plan is per se. I mean, obviously they're discard spells, but we don't know what their win con situation is like. So I think we just leave it as is. So mono black control of some kind. Sure. Turn 1 discard spell. Goodbye, Expressive Iteration. Seems to be very calculating. That's a nice way of putting it, I suppose. Sure. Pithing Needle naming what? There's only like 100 planeswalkers in this deck. Narset Parter Avails. Sure. Expressive Iteration. Do I still take Narset anyway? Pass to our opponent. Yep, there's a Reggie. Pass turn. The Wandering Emperor. There's a concession Wandering Emperor. We'll grab Chandra, because why not? Okay. Chandra Awakened Inferno. Pass to our opponent. The biggest problem with our opponent's archetype is we can just go over the top of it so easily. Sure. Dotsies. Gotta take Bolus. Question is, what do you do with Liliana? Yes, fair wishes. Okay. Guess we're just scrying this turn. Alright, and our opponent finally scoops after. Yeah. Alright, back for second match with Firewalkers. This hand is very awkward, but we'll try it. Because we always have Cycle Typhoon and to hopefully find red source. Get an expressive iteration off, maybe. Okay, Botanical Sanctum, so Hardened skills, okay. Construct, oh, Merfolk. Interesting. Alright, missed on land drops, so off we go. Sure. Mm-hmm. Alright, we're just too far behind this game. Okie dokie. So, probably want Anger. Nickel Ball seems a little excessive. Doesn't make much sense. Rest in peace. Damn, Answer doesn't make much sense. Bring in the other copy of Supreme Verdict, maybe. I feel like we need to leave in. Yeah, try it like that. Now we're gonna probably have to deal with things like Spell Pierce and maybe Mystical Dispute, so yeah, this hand seems fine. Merfolk. Okay, Tangle Sanctum. Benthic Biomancer. You really want to save it for... Oh, okay, sure. I figured you had a counterspell, but apparently not. Yeah, that's terrifying. Some counter for each up to 2 target Norfolk. Mm-hmm. Hmm. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Play Elspeth. What's Ruinous Ultimatum? Draw null and permanents your opponent's control. Sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Huh. It's got 1 card in hand. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Should have recast Faye there. Merfolk. Okay. Interesting. Our Emperor. Question is, do they attack Narset or do they attack us? Okay. What you got over there, friend? Wow. Heck, I should draw. It's possible they've had whatchamacallit in hand. The first disdainful stroke. At least have a jump blocker this turn. Sure. Alright, well, that makes things a bit easier. That's a concession. Got it. Oop, nope. No. So try it. It's a bit risky with the damage we'll be taking. Mm-hmm. Alright, well, as much as I want to get value out of all these expressive iterations. Alright. Better lucky than good sometimes. Interplanar beacon. Fires of Invention. Okay. Take 6 and like it. Sylvantress overperforming in this league by far. Looking for a verdict. Or an anger. Let's go ahead and exile one of these. Hardened skills, sure. Okay, jump up to 2. Take out the Wandering Emperor. We are not. Alrighty. Grab a Supreme Verdict if we can. All right. And I'm not conceding yet. Interesting. Game's over, friend. I don't know what you're wanting to play out here, but the game's clearly over. Alright, and our opponent finally agrees. Alright, we're back for our third match with Fires. Mana in this deck is hecka sketchy. Okay. Interesting to see how much the opponent plays the board here. this turn with the face. Yeah. Really would have liked Fires of Invention. So we take an anger. Sure. Do they waste a... Nope, they're just going face on everything. Really want to find Interplanar Beacon before we die. Sure, probably should have saved that, but that is okay. Looking for Interplanar Beacon plus Planeswalker we can cast. Good chance we're just dead here. Shock didn't kill me. There you go. You figured it out. I want to bring in Anger of the Gods. I want to bring in Verdict. Go down Boros. Alright. Interplanar Beacon's like our probably one of our better cards in the matchup, outside of having sweepers, obviously. Yeah, we'll keep this one. Not the most exciting, but fine. Turn one, hit, go. Again, alright, so I think we take Spell land, Shark Typhoon, out to pasture. Okay, that was pretty clearly an oops. Go ahead and Anger of the Gods away. Don't really like taking one to verdict this thing away, but let's verdict it away, shall we? Okay, I'm looking for interplanar beacon. Can we get an interplanar beacon up in here, please? Sure. Skullcrack? Sure. Let's go ahead and hold this back as a blocker. Alright, what you got, friend? This is one of the questions I had about the deck is, could it survive against a true tierish deck? Because so far we played against like Mono Black and Hardened Scales Merfolk. Burn, while it's not a true tier deck in the format, is at least a deck that has been competitive on a regular basis with the format before Luris was banned and just kind of regular mono red took over. So opponent perhaps determining if they want to waste the burn spell on Fae or alright, so of course we find another interplanar beacon there. Don't think we can actually cast that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Cards we can't cast. Already played land for the turn. So we can play do this. Cancel. Do that. Play that. In our set. Of course, we bottom all the interplanar beacons, so we want to find some way to shuffle the deck if we could, because all our life gains down at the bottom of the deck. Let's go decide if they're pitching a card, pitching a land. Alright, and this. This will be the difficult one. Nope. It's one of those weird quirky decks that I've always enjoyed in whatever format it's been available, whether it was standard, whether it was Pioneer for a time, or now obviously it's legal, but can I risk turn 4 Supreme Verdict hand? Guess. Turn 1 Idiot. He was supposed to look into anger. Okay. Yep. So that was their top deck. Boros Burn. Mm-hmm. Decent chance we're dead though. We have 2 spells we should be done here. Skewer the critics, skewer the critics. How do you have nothing there? I am very confused. Nothing. Flooding out badly. Don't want to risk them having a... flood out. Yeah, on each planeswalker we... Curious if they have like certain blood in hand. Alright, nice. Alright, be back in a sec with the wrap. So I think one of my big questions was kind of answered. One of the things I questioned in the opening was whether... Obviously the Stella deck is vulnerable to counterspells backed up by other things. So, you know, a blue-white control deck sticking back on a ton of counter spells obviously is going to be problematic for this style of deck. A tempo deck like Spirits is going to be problematic for this style of deck. But the other question is could this deck at least hang with the normal aggressive decks like Mono Red? You know, the Hardened Skills deck we saw as an example. While they're not true tier aggro decks like Winota or something, so that remains to be seen, obviously, if you can, you know, survive a Winota storm. But, you know, one of the nice things about this deck is this is kind of a casual deck. You know, we do have hate cards for a lot of the other decks can be problematic, whether it be Lotus Fuel or any type of graveyard-based nonsense. You know, we have some hate cards to bring in or to wish for, as the case may be. We have additional sweepers to bring in against the aggressive decks, so we're not cold to aggressive decks. So the thing is with a deck like this is what can you mitigate the weaknesses of the deck, which are obviously counter spells and decks getting under you before you can set up the Fires of Invention plus X spell. The one of the cards that I still continue to question is Fable and the Mirror Breaker. I get it's, you know, it's powerful, but we don't have that many creatures in the deck, so Reflection of Kijiki isn't that powerful. But, you know, a 2/2 that makes treasure tokens when it attacks, the discard ability, you know, those might be relevant enough to bring that inclusion into the deck. I don't know how I feel about that card. That's one of the ones that I'm like kind of questioning going, well, maybe. Another thing you could easily see is you could easily see a fourth copy of Fate of Wishes. You know, Kenrith is a card that I questioned a little bit in the opening, but, you know, it's still very powerful. It's another threat. You know, the ability to gain life it's just a very powerful thing whenever you have Fires of Invention plus X, and it's a fairly castable card normally under most circumstances. You know, obviously you have the key cards like Nicol Bolas and Nicol Bolas that are difficult to cast outside of, especially Nicol Bolas Dragon God, are a little bit difficult to cast outside of having fires, but not impossible with 4 interplanar beacons and there's two copies of Mana Confluence. So it's not impossible to cast it, but it is difficult. Beyond that, you know, Wandering Emperor is a wonderful addition from the last time I played this deck. I think Historic was the last time I played this version of the deck, or a variant of this deck, before obviously Fires got banned in Historic. So, you know, the deck's very powerful. Whether it's fast enough for the format of Pioneer on a consistent basis, obviously you see people doing well with Fires decks here and there, but I don't know that it's a tier deck per se like we've mostly covered on the channel, other than Velomachus combo. But it's a fun deck that I like to bust out every once in a while. So as far as the you know, iterations or, you know, the big bomb spells in the sideboard, you know, there are different reasons for different things, so, you know, you can't really complain there. But deck's a lot of fun, you know, as long as you don't take it too seriously, and this is kind of one of those decks you pull out when you want to have fun in an FNM, and this isn't the deck you're trying to win a big event with, you know, understanding that this deck is a blast to play in Pioneer. So that said, this has been John for Pioneer Nexus MTG. Hope to see you for the next video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel.